Creator George Lucas questions about his huge new film. Leonard did ask George those questions, and now we have the answers you've been waiting for.
Here is the single most asked question, George. The #1 question out of the 5,000. Bill asks, when can we expect to see the Star Wars trilogy released on DVD?
We've been kind of waiting on the DVD because I've been trying to make sure that the DVD is the ultimate repository of the Star Wars saga, and primarily what we're trying to do is wait until I have all 6 of them before we release them on DVD.
Sean wants to know, will Anakin Skywalker's father's identity be revealed in Episode 1?
Well, Anakin's father's identity is complicated, and it is revealed in Episode 1, Sean.
Todd says, it's been mentioned in other interviews that 9 episodes were created. 1 through 3 are about Anakin, then 4 through 6 are about Luke. Who are episodes 7 through 9 about, and will they ever be made? That's Todd.
7 through 9 really came about when I was on one of these press junkets and somebody said, are you going to do sequels? And I said, well, you know, I have these prequels and stuff, but I'm not sure I'll ever do sequels. And they said, oh, you should do sequels. And I said, well, maybe someday I'll do sequels. And so that's how 7 through 9 came to be. There was never a script or a story, so I have the vaguest idea what would happen in 7 through 9. And I really don't think they'll ever get made because I would be like 90 years old by the time I got them finished.
Peter says, if you could go back in time to the 70s, what advice would you give yourself?
I'm not sure what I'd do if I had to go back to the 70s. I actually feel very lucky that I had such a positive life experience, especially in the 70s, especially when I was in school in the 60s and the 70s. You know, I could never have imagined the path that life has given me. I would have never expected to be here where I am.
Michael says, with the Lucas Empire being as big as it is, do you ever find it personally overwhelming?
Well, Michael, the Empire was a bit overwhelming in the 80s when I had to try to rearrange it and make it work. Now it pretty much works and I don't have to deal with it very much, so I don't get mixed up in it too much anymore, which is good. That's why I can come back and be a director and work on making movies.
Eric says, what type of films are you interested in making after you finish these 3 prequels?
I've always said I wanted to go back and do non-linear, non-story films and more personal kinds of movies. And I may go back and do that when I finish the Star Wars series. I've also got a couple of TV shows that I've become interested in. And the Young Indiana Jones experience, I loved it a great deal, and I'd like to go back and do a little bit more of that.
What a blast it was to sit there and talk to George, of course, and to ask him your questions. But the funniest thing he told me is that his own kids wanted to send questions to us online. I said we would have considered them. We're not prejudiced, no problem there. It was really
I really want to know. We see the film Monday. What did you really think of the film?
I had a good time. Yeah. I had a good time. I think that people who are fanatics and who are building this up as if it's the second coming, I have to remind themselves it's just a movie, right. And it is not an in-your-face movie. It's not Armageddon. It's not Con Air with explosions from minute 1. It's a Star Wars movie, and I think it fits the rest of the films very well.
Okay, great.
Right. Thanks a lot, Leonard.
And we'll have more from Leonard's meeting with Star Wars creator George Lucas. Coming up, Leonard's interview with George about his own kids, how he chose the cast, and what's in store for the Star Wars future. That's next.
Who holds the record for most lead actress Emmys for a single series? Is it Candice Bergen, Mary Tyler Moore, or Tyne Daly? Your answers next in the Entertainment Tonight Weekend Birthdays. One of the most anticipated movies of all time, one man, George Lucas, created Star Wars Episode 1, directed it, and wrote it. Now Leonard Maltin continues his total Star Wars coverage with an in-depth interview for the details.
How do you see yourself?
Well, I see myself as a father who struggles every day to raise his kids, and as a filmmaker who works every day very hard to make a cinematic experience for people. Those are my main focuses.
For George Lucas, the job of being both parent and filmmaker often merge. The single dad is raising 3 kids. The youngest, Jet, is 6. Do you think that being a parent all over again has affected your approach to this film?
In terms of being able to see it through my son's eyes, especially because he's 6 and he's a boy, and that definitely has affected me because I can now see it through his eyes.
Does that put you more in tune with the child inside yourself, you think?
Having kids puts me in a good mood. I guess being happier, I write a happier kind of script.
Is it true that your son, when he was younger, came up with the term Gungan?
Yeah, I started writing this 4 years ago when he was 2, and he would always point to trucks and large moving equipment thing and calls it Gunga. There's a Gunga, there's a Gunga. And I said, well, that's a good name. So I wrote that down. So we named the race Gungans.
How do you come up with your names?
My daughter named a few of the ancillary characters for me. She'd sit in my office while I was writing. And then, you know, even the lower ones, people in the various departments, some of them in the sound department, some of them over at ILM, some of them in the licensing department come up with names because I just can't think of names for every single thing on the planet.
There are some new names in The Phantom Menace, like Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson, and there are some classics like Obi-Wan Kenobi, played here by Ewan McGregor. I want to ask you about casting the principals in this movie. What was it that said to you, Ewan McGregor, he's the right guy?
Ewan is strong and he's witty and you know, he's a very good actor. I thought he'd be perfect for Obi-Wan.
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman, I was looking for somebody very strong. You know, she plays a 14-year-old girl who is an elected official and rules her planet.
Liam Neeson.
He's the perfect Jedi. It's one of those things that when he's there, it's sort of like Harrison Ford. You just can't think of anybody else in that role. He was born to play this role.
Of course, The Phantom Menace is just chapter 1 in this 6-chapter epic. What are we going to be looking forward to in the second chapter?
It's mostly a love story between Anakin and somebody.
And the third?
And the third is even more of a departure. It's pretty dark, pretty serious, pretty down, pretty intense. I mean, I think it's going to be the most fun to do because it's got the most drama in it.
And for the fans, some of whom started lining up weeks ago for tickets, Lucas promises a great show. What do you make of this fanaticism about your movie? It goes beyond fandom.
I think what's happened is you see a very innocent kind of movie in a very cynical time. And I think people simply want to have something nice. This is the fun. This is kind of the Woodstock. This is kind of the, let's just forget everything and just have a good time.
Thanks a lot, Leonard. And if you see George Lucas on the street, be careful what you say. It may end up in the next Star Wars movie. George told Leonard he always has a notepad with him to write down interesting sounds he hears.
Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is not just a movie, it is a merchandiser's dream. From the stars on soda cans to countless toys, tie-ins from the film will soon be taking over the world. And now we look at their financial force in the Entertainment Tonight cover story. It may seem like child's play, but the selling of Star Wars is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the new galaxy of Phantom products promises to be an irresistible force.
And there's obviously going to be huge demand for these toys because there's just unbelievable hype about this Star Wars movie.
More than 2 decades ago, George Lucas revolutionized modern movie marketing when he negotiated a deal with 20th Century Fox, granting him the sequel and merchandising rights. Over the last 22 years, Star Wars products have generated an estimated $4 billion, with a huge portion going to Lucas.
I will take back what's ours.
Episode 1 toys alone are expected to generate $1 billion this year, thanks to lucrative deals Lucas struck with Tiger Electronics, Applause Toys, and Hasbro, which made the director a shareholder just for the right to produce their Star Wars line.
That's certainly an indication that Lucas expects his marketing partners to do quite well, that he would be interested in owning the stock of the company.
Pepsi paid an astronomical $2 billion to join the Phantom Force, and they will sell soda cans featuring the film's cast of characters.
$2 billion is quite a lot of money to cough up for a movie tie-in license, particularly in light of the fact that movie licensing has not done very well for marketers in recent years. The last 2 summers have been very thin. None of the movies have really produced marketing blockbusters.
But Star Wars isn't just any movie, and the toys aren't just for kids.
The main market for this stuff is really going to be the people who were kids when the first Star Wars movie came out.
It's the serious collectors that beef up the bottom line, investing in Star Wars wares like some people invest in fine art.
Some people are like heavy hitters and they'll spend anything to get these figures.
Wade LaJose is one such